More than 50 years after J.R.R. Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings, the classic tale is finally being told on the big screen. It's the story of a time when humans, elves, dwarves, wizards, and hobbits inhabit a land called Middle-earth. In Lord of the Rings, one of the hobbits, Frodo Baggins, is played by Elijah Wood. He becomes the unlikely ring-bearer who must fight the forces of evil to destroy the one ring that threatens all future civilization.
What are you doing?
Hold out your hand, Frodo. It's quite cool. What can you see? Can you see anything?
Nothing. There's nothing. Wait. There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
There are few who can. The language is that of Mordor, which I will not utter here. In the common tongue, it says, one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, fight.
Elijah Wood, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
The language, just to be clear, Elvish, not Elvis. We want to make sure people understand,
yes,
right?
Indeed, Elvish.
Had you read Tolkien's books before you took this project?
I hadn't. I'd read The Hobbit when I was really young, but I hadn't read Lord of the Rings until I actually got to New Zealand.
I watched the movie the other day, and one of the things I wanted to ask you was, who's the movie for? What's the audience for this? Because the fantasy part of that would lend itself to a young, imaginative audience, but there are some scenes in here that are not for really young people.
It's quite scary. I'd say 10 is probably the best age to start, and then kind of moving on up. You know, it is a lot of really scary footage.
Tell me about Frodo. Listen, and it's almost impossible for us to describe the plot of this movie in 5.5 minutes here.
Incredibly impossible.
Frodo is a hobbit. For people who didn't read the books, what's a hobbit?
A hobbit is a people of Middle-earth, of the west of Middle-earth. They're generally about 4 foot tall. They're people of the land, basically.
And Ian McKellen plays the wizard Gandalf, who informs this hobbit, Frodo, that he is now the ring bearer. What's the significance of the ring?
The ring is basically the epitome of evil. The Dark Lord Sauron forged this ring to control all of Middle-earth. So in this ring is his life's blood. He's trying to get the ring back to himself so that he can actually take all over Middle-earth, basically.
We just saw an interior scene in the hobbit's house. But the exterior scenes in this movie are somewhat breathtaking. The landscapes, the scenery, the characters. How much of this was an actual set? How much of this is computer generated?
I'd say most of it is actually set and locations. I mean, New Zealand is Middle-earth. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'd say most of what you see, and then it's enhanced by the special effects.
But when you're doing scenes in the mines, traveling to Mordor, these are miniatures in some cases?
Yeah, we've got miniatures, you know, pieces of sets with blue screen sort of surrounding it, or blue screen that they then kind of put us in an environment.
How hard was it, do you think, for the writers and for the actors to condense this massive, imaginative tale into what is the first 3-hour movie of several movies?
Of the trilogy. Incredibly difficult. You know, we were trying to constantly infuse the script with as much of the books as possible by staying true to that, but also appealing to an audience who hasn't seen the books. It's an incredibly dense book, so it's very difficult to get everything in there, obviously.
And you shot all 3 segments or installments of the trilogy at the same time?
At the same time. Yeah, I lived in New Zealand for 16 months. This was my life.
well, let me add 2 parts of that. First of all, we've interviewed actors here before, and they all say, you know, it was an incredible 4-month experience. I loved it. But they also usually say, I was happy to get off that set after 4 months.
Exactly.
16 months with the same crew and cast. That's a long time.
It is a long time. And the great thing is we actually became a family. And the fellowship that is represented in the film became a real fellowship. I mean, I've made some of the best friends of my life on this picture.
But as a young actor who's very much in demand in Hollywood, how much of a consideration was it for you to be out of place, to be away from Hollywood for 16 months during a time where you could be fielding a lot of offers?
Certainly. It wasn't something I actually considered. I think this is sort of the opportunity of a lifetime, and I could not pass it up. I couldn't imagine being able to have this experience again, so it was something that I really wanted to join.
I'm not going to give away anything in the end except to say that the story to be continued. So what can you tell me about the second installment in the trilogy?
Things get very dark for Frodo. I mean, Frodo obviously decides to bear this ring on his own, so Frodo and Sam continue on their journey to Mordor, and things get darker as the story progresses.
And what are they scheduled to be released one a year?
Once a year, so you'll get us every holiday season.
And during that time, as they're released over the next 3 years or two years, are you going to try and do projects that are very much different from these?
Exactly. I'm going to try and do things in between to sort of diffuse the image of Frodo that people are going to have in their head.
Well, all I can say, 2 words, or 3 words really, big box office.
It's scary. I've never been a part of anything this big before, so it's exciting and overwhelming all at the same time.
Elijah Wood, good to have you here. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. 42 after the hour, and Lord of the Rings opens December 9th.